Shalom, shalom, and welcome to Blessed Handmaidens of YAH, the Women's Ministry of Israelite Heritage. My name is AmaziYah Ysrayl, and we're going to be doing the video lesson today entitled YAH's Purpose in Creating Woman. And what I want to point out is that our role in creation, ladies, is very important for the family structure, because once we get in order in our place, that would help our men get in order in their place, and YAH can deal with them, and then that means the families of the assembly will be in order, and if the assembly is in order, then the body of Messiah is in order, and we're working towards the goal of building the kingdom and being that light on a hill that YAH wants us to be. So let's first look at Genesis chapter 1 verse 26, and it says, "And YAH said, Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over all the creeping creatures that creep on the earth." Okay, so when it says, let us make man in our image, that means the image of righteousness. And what we see here is that before woman was even formed, Adam was created to rule over all of creation. But as we're about to see, there was not a helpmeet found for him. So let's drop down to chapter 2, Genesis chapter 2, verse 18 through 20. And it says, "And YAH said, It is not good for man to be alone. I am going to make a helper for him as his counterpart. And from the ground YAH formed every beast of the field and every bird of the heavens, and brought them to man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called each living creature, that was its name. So the man gave names to all livestock, and to the birds of the heavens, and to every beast of the field. But for the man there was not found a helper for him as his counterpart." Okay, so what we're seeing here, ladies, is that YAH brought the animals to Adam to be named. And so therefore, when something is named by someone, the person that names it has authority over that person. And so let's keep reading verse 21. And it says, "So YAH caused a deep sleep to fall on the man, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh in its place. And the rib which YAH had taken from the man he made into a woman, and he brought her to the man." Okay, so what we see is YAH saw that problem of Adam not having a counterpart. He created woman and brought that woman to Adam. Thus, women, we are gifts to our husbands. YAH created us to be helpers and to be gifts to them. And what we also see is that all of the rest of creation, they were created from dust or from the ground. And yet, women, we were created from flesh. We were created from our husbands. And so that's just one key point that I wanted to point out. And look, keep going, verse 23. It says, "And the man said, This is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. This one is called woman, because she was taken out of man. For this cause a man shall leave his father and his mother, and cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." Okay, well, one flesh here is signifying the same in purpose, character, and goal, to become one. And we see here that Adam, he said, this one is to be called woman. And thus, like we talked about earlier, in him naming the animals, he had rule or authority or dominion over them. Well, likewise, Adam named the woman, and thus indicating his authority over her. And this is just how YAH designed it. Now, I wanted to stop and make a quick note here that in the Hebrew, the word for woman is Isha, which is the same word used for wife, and that can be referenced in Strong's Concordance as H802. Now, so the original and the contemporary purpose for woman is to be a helper, a helpmeet to her husband, to assist him. And we see nowhere thus far that we were created to be an authority figure to him. And so now I want to move on to the fall. and see what this really caused, because a lot of times we say, okay, well, you know, Eve went ahead and ate that fruit and had her husband eat it too, you know, cute little story in the scriptures. But really what we have to understand is that because of that one act, because she was deceived by the serpent or Satan, that's why we have to struggle daily with our sinfulness and our rebelliousness. That because of that one event in history, that's why all the heinous crimes that are committed, it's all a result of that. And so turn with me to Genesis chapter 3 verse 1, and it says, "And the serpent was more crafty than any beast of the field which YAH had made. And he said to the woman, Is it true that YAH has said, Do not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, We are to eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, YAH has said, Do not eat it, nor touch it, lest you die." Okay, so notice here that the serpent came to Eve or Hawa with a question, which automatically casts doubt in her mind, because say for example you have something like a painting, you know it's red, and someone's like, well, is that painting really red? And you're like, makes you think about it. You're like, well, maybe it's a little orange, but knowing good and well that it's red, so automatically that question makes her have to think about it, and you know, is creating a space for her to have doubt in her mind. And so, but here in this case, she did respond well, because she responded, as we're about to see, with the scripture. So verse 2 and 3, let's read that. It says, "And the woman said to the serpent," okay, we are to eat of the fruit of the trees and of the garden. Okay, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, YAH has said, Do not eat of it, nor touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said to the woman, You shall certainly not die, for YAH knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be like Elohim, knowing good and evil." Now Elohim, it means gods, and Elohim is the plural form of the word Eloha, which means gods or angels, and it can be referenced in H430 in Strong's Concordance. But I do want to point out, ladies, is that the word Elohim is not equivalent to the Most High YAH. Now, the Most High YAH, his name in Hebrew can be referenced in H3050, and just so you can look at the differences between the Hebrew words there. Now, what Satan was tempting her with is to rise out of her position and to exalt herself, because then, you know, she would have all this knowledge and this and that. But this is just like, this is the exact characteristic of Satan, and this is what he did when he rebelled. And even in Isaiah 14:14, Satan says, you know, he wants to be like the Most High. So again, here we have Satan trying to exalt himself, and now he's gotten Eve to, you know, exalt herself as well. And so we really just have to stay in the place that YAH ordained for us, because there is peace and harmony in that. So let's take a look at Genesis 3:6, and it says, "And the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise. And she took of its fruit and ate, and she also gave it to her husband with her, and he ate." So we see that Hawa, or Eve, she was blinded by the fruit. It looked good to her, and she neglected to recognize the spiritual attack that was, you know, coming to her, because previously we see that she quoted scripture, she knew what YAH had said, so now she's just being blinded. All her reason is being suspended under the persuasion of, you know, the serpent. And so what I want to point out is that women, if we see that historically, just by looking in the scriptures, that men can sometimes be persuaded by our voice, then we need to make sure to check ourselves and make sure that we're fortified in this word and in this scripture and doing what we need to do, so that we're not going to persuade them to do anything that's against the word or YAH. And so we're going to take a break right here, and we're going to come back with part 2, and we'll continue on. All right, shalom.